So this is the second episode of the Midnight Monologue with Rochelle McLean and
Zachary Miller.
Yeah, that's right. Those are your two hosts. Some additions here. She'll walk you through them.
Yes, so we've been doing a lot of painting.
First for us, well for me.
Oh, yes. I haven't really painted that much either, so this was a fun time. But we're working on this one, so this one's pretty obvious. It is our name. And then over there, we were going to do something pretty funky with that one, but we kind of like it as is.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We might tinker with it. We might not. We might add some surprises here and there. Tune in and find out, I guess.
It has some glow-in-the-dark paint on it right now. Obviously, it's not dark in here, so you can't see that.
Yeah.
But...
and I don't really know if it works.
Well,
I tried cupping my hands and peering through, but...
Well, we thought glow-in-the-dark paint would be cool, you know? I don't know. It's cool stuff.
But I think you have to put a lot of coats on it.
We had to water this down, too. So it's...
Oh, that's true. I keep forgetting that we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were doing the flick technique to get the stars on there.
Flick technique.
Yeah,
so professional sounding. Flick technique.
Yeah.
You mean you hit it against your finger?
Mm-hmm. It was so hard. No, seriously. You would think that you would just flick it and it would go where you're flicking. But I don't know what was happening, like physics, I guess. But I was flicking it down and the paint was splattering me in the face. Like going backwards.
In the dark. Is that even correct? You glowed. You glowed in it. It's not you glue in the dark.
You glue.
Weirdo. I'm talking about myself. You glowed in the dark. Past tense.
Glow up.
You glue in the dark.
Glue.
So, yeah. It's glowed. It's glowed, not glued. Maybe if you glued something in the past. I glued with a glue stick.
Yeah.
More structured today.
Yes.
Hit off there before we get down the rabbit hole. More structured today. Last time we just sort of talked about whatever we wanted.
Yeah, so we actually have topics today.
And furthermore, we actually had some people that actually watched our last one. So that was great. And
yes, thank you, by the way.
Thank you.
We love our fans.
Yeah, we do love our fans. And we also had some recommendations, suggestions for what to talk about from some of our fans. And we're incorporating those into our podcast today, some of those.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to do that as long as we get suggestions.
Is it called a podcast if you see a video?
I believe it is.
I thought it was like a video cast. Or just a video.
Maybe it's a podcast with supplemental video.
I don't know. But anyway, let's jump right in.
Yeah.
But before we talk about things that people requested, we want to talk about something that really grinds our gears.
Yeah. Way to put it.
Yeah.
So that something is, so we have a puppy, gorgeous, cute little chocolate lab, 5 months old, named Scooby-Doo. He's got the theme song and everything. And we have just started taking him to the dog park, which is great, except for sometimes there are some extenuating circumstances that you do not plan for, such as kids throwing sticks and rocks at your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't great.
No. It's not that we have a problem with kids in general at the dog park.
We like it, actually. Because it lets your dog get to know, and then they sort of form a relationship where you don't have to be worried about them interacting with kids in the future or other dogs, which is a primary purpose in my mind for taking your dog to the dog park.
Right, exactly. So that part is amazing. But what happens is there are these tiny kids there, tiny as in 5 years old, 6 years old, and...
I thought you meant like this.
Tiny little kids.
Honey, I shrunk the kids.
But they're unsupervised. I'm sure they have a parent there somewhere, but the parent is not watching them, and the kids are acting up, and like Zach was saying, they're throwing things at Scooby and at other dogs, hurting our puppy and other puppies. And
no parents to be found.
Right. And they're no parents are saying, hey, stop that. It's just a problem because some dogs are going to get aggressive if you're hurting them. Mm-hmm. Obviously they are.
Yeah, definitely. And then you're going to get mad at them and possibly sue and cause that dog to have to get put down in some circumstances. And that's like the main thing that grinds our gears, but there's some lesser things that are just like, pet peeves. And that's just, I guess, some of the perks, if you will, of kids being kids at a dog park. If you supervise them or not, a lot of times kids do weird things. For instance, they like sticks just as much as dogs sometimes.
Even more, it seems.
Yeah.
We've noticed.
So one time we're at the dog park, Scooby has this stick he loves. He grabs it every time we're at the dog park. All the dogs love it. It's this big, it's like a big piece of bark, really thick piece
Almost
of bark.
Almost a log.
Almost.
Like, it's thick.
Yeah, and all the dogs fight over it with other dogs, right? And then this kid, like 5-6-year-old little boy, comes up and he really likes this stick, this log. So he grabs it, he's running around with it, saying that it's his stick. And he's not giving it to the dogs, but he took it from the dogs that just had it, right? So he took their stick and is running around with it, and obviously they're trying to get it, and this is going on for like minutes. Mm-hmm. And then one of these dogs jumps up and tries to get the stick and accidentally nips the kid. This dog is not Scooby. It is a bigger dog that's not a puppy. That's an important distinction, because then later, what happens?
Well, I wasn't there, so I don't know why you're indicating that.
Because I confided in you.
I guess you told me. I don't know
Yes,
the details, so
I
I feel like
confided
that's...
in you.
Well, first of all, kids run really weirdly, so I feel like, no, this is important. Because...
How could this be important?
No, because if you're running and you have a stick, it's not really that bad because it's kind of up by your face out of the way. But little kids don't run like normal people.
And they're also that big.
They have like flailed their arms, and especially if they're running away from something, you know, they're like all over the place, basically taunting the dogs with this awesome stick.
Yeah.
So it was understandable that the dog bit him.
It wasn't even on purpose. This dog, like in defense of this dog, he jumped up trying to get the stick. This little
right, but when
brat
you're
just
flailing your
fell
arms around,
yeah,
you know, it's
and
hard
then,
to aim.
Yeah. So he gets bit,
Anyway.
and then he goes to his mom, his caregiver, his sister, whatever have you, his guardian that's there with him, and he says, "Oh, mom, sister, blah blah blah." I wasn't close enough to hear the exact conversation, but I heard the important part, which is that dog just bit me, and that's like a caregiver's worst nightmare at a dog park, I feel like. And if I had, someone I was watching over there and they said that to me, I would be stressed out, worried, and angry at whatever dog did that. But that's without knowing that whoever I was watching over was running around with a stick, the dog stick that they just had. Anyhow, and then the caregiver, she says, "Oh, which one?" And then he says, "I don't know, the brown one." And then she says, "Oh, he's just a puppy. Don't worry about it," basically. And like I said, the other dog that actually did it was not a puppy. It was really big. And the only other dog there was Scooby. But he didn't bite this kid. No. Probably because he was just too slow, honestly. Probably couldn't catch up. But also he's probably too short. He can't jump that high. But then I was like, dude, now Scooby's got a bad rap. He's got a bad rap up in here. And he didn't do the rapping,
Is it bad rap? I thought it was bad rep. Like reputation.
You're hilarious.
Isn't it? A bad rep?
No, it's bad rap.
I don't think it is.
It's bad rap.
It's bad rep.
Tell us in the comments, but it's bad rap.
It's bad rap.
Bad rep is bad reputation is a thing, but it's bad rap. It's bad rap. He's got
that
a
makes
bad
no
rap.
sense. What does that stand for?
I don't know. It doesn't stand for anything. He's got a bad rap. Wrapped up in the wrong stuff.
Oh my goodness.
He got wrapped up in the wrong crowd.
It's gonna be embarrassing if I'm wrong.
One of us is wrong. One of the two of us is wrong.
Anyway, okay. So, next topic.
Yeah.
Now that we vented a little bit, got some heat off our chest.
I'm worried about the dog park, though, because it's going to start snowing here soon. And she thinks we're going to be able to keep taking Scooby to this dog park. I think he's going to freeze into an icicle block if we keep taking him.
We can get him a sweater and boots or something.
It's like negative 40 degrees.
It's not like we're going to
here.
have him there. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to have him outside when it's that cold.
Normally it's 0 or less than 0, like negative 20.
Well, we can walk around on campus.
and get frostbite
for a long period of time. If he's just out there for a little, like, quick hello.
My last roommate got frost nip, I guess you'd call it, on his ears because he got out and tried to help some people move their car for 5 minutes.
Yes, when it was super cold out. We're not going to take him when it's super cold out. I was meaning, like, when there's just snow on the ground. We can still take him to the dog park.
All right.
That's
so anyhow,
what I was talking about.
We're worried about it. We might, post a video on Instagram or something if we make one of those. We don't have one yet.
Wait,
yeah, of Scooby the first time he sees snow.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited for
And then also when he's frozen
bark at it.
into a giant cube from being out at the dog park in negative 40-degree weather.
Anyway, Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, like the kind you eat that go bad and have worms growing?
No, next topic.
Okay, next topic is Rotten Tomatoes. This one is more so centered on me. But that's good because then we'll be able to see her reaction to it and bring her in to the grinding of said gears. And Rotten Tomatoes, I'm talking, of course, about the reviewing website. They review a lot of things. They're not to name names, but if you want to look up who owns Rotten Tomatoes, and you'll know the answer. It's a very big movie corporation. I believe it's Paramount. I might be wrong. That's why I'm saying not to name names, not because Paramount gives us money, because I don't, because this is our second podcast.
We're not worthy.
But I just don't remember. But a big company owns them, a big movie company, and I believe that probably plays into the ratings.
Mm-hmm.
But the main issue is Rotten Tomatoes has critic scores, and then it has audience scores. Sticks and Stones is the example I'm going to be using. It is the most recent Dave Chappelle comedy special on Netflix. Just came out a couple days ago. Watch it if you enjoy somewhat offensive comedy. If you do not, or if you enjoy Dave Chappelle, which I guess those go together normally. She didn't like it very much.
I hated it. Yeah. I hated it. Not because it was offensive, because normally that would be something that I wouldn't like. But no, it was just not funny to me. I don't know. I don't think I laughed once, and I don't even think I cracked a smile. Like, I wasn't even...
You only watched a fourth of it, though.
Yeah. I got a whole fourth of the way in, and I never smiled at one thing. And I find most things funny, too.
Yeah.
I'm kind of quirky, so just wasn't my cup of tea.
I think it was more a defensive comedy because of everything that happened with Kevin Hart in the Oscars. I mean, he opened with impressions, and one of his impressions was basically, we're going to bring up everything that people did 30 years ago. We're going to boo you off the stage and try to ruin your career if we find that there's anything that you said in the past that you regret or have apologized for if we don't agree with it, even though you were a whole different person then. And then he's like, who's that? And then they're all like, oh, Trump. I don't know, I guess that's like the go-to impression nowadays. The safe bet is, oh, it's Trump. It did kind of sound like Trump, to be honest with you. Yeah. But then he says, no, that's you. That's the audience. That's who I'm doing this for, because you guys are going to say these are too offensive jokes. You're going to try to kick me off. And that's largely what we've seen happen after it's been shown. But critic score is 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, largely because, in my opinion, I read there's only 6 critic reviews. I read them all. Almost all of them say the jokes were offensive. He's lost his touch. But I think Dave Chappelle just was fed up, and the whole point of this was to say, hey, jokes can be offensive and funny at the same time. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't exist. Mm-hmm. And then there's no audience scores out right now, but I assume they're going to be different than 0%.
Yeah, because even though I hated it, 0%... That's pretty low. Yeah. Like, you really... I could sit in this chair and you could rate it a 0% if I just do nothing.
Yeah.
And
I don't probably get more than 0% anyways.
Yeah,
probably at least get
just
1%
breathing,
for that.
Because I'm breathing, that's an accomplishment, so...
Critic review. A little dull, but you were breathing. +1. No, but then...
Bonus points for the blinks.
Yeah, there you go. Very good blinks. A better example, seeing as audience scores aren't out, is Death Wish. We watched that movie together, and you liked that movie, from what I remember.
I don't remember it, but he tells me that I liked it.
Yes, it was about the surgeon whose
No, I
father,
know, but
not his father, his
I
mother.
slept through most of that.
No, you didn't. That was the one I made you stay awake because I wanted you to watch it.
Oh.
Not his father. I keep saying his father. His wife and his daughter get attacked.
Sure, we watched all of that. I remember the beginning.
We watched all of it. Remember? He's called the Grim
Okay,
Reaper.
move on.
Anyhow, the critic score for that is very low. I believe it's 16 or 18% around there. And then the audience score is 70-80%. Just this drastic dichotomy between the critic score and the audience score. And then the established critics will tell you, hey, the audience, they don't know. They don't know what's good. We're the critics. This is our job. But they don't realize that we're the audience.
Mm-hmm.
That we go to these.
Yeah, the
not
audience
for
is
our job.
what matters. Like,
Yeah.
Honestly, the critics.
Why they should?
It doesn't
be fired,
really matter
in my
too
opinion.
much what they say.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that it matters is because it could influence people to go or not go.
They're influencers. That's
right,
what they are.
Right. But the people that you care about the reviews of are not the critics.
But my whole thing is, if you're a critic, and your critic score is so drastically different than the audience you're supposed to be representing,
Then there's a problem.
I think you're not doing a great job at your job,
Yeah.
interpreting what the general population likes, as opposed to
What you like.
or what might go against your ethics. Like, oh, I wouldn't make that joke. It's offensive. It's not if you would make the joke or not. It's if it was an enjoyable feature.
Which is a good point. I feel as though being a critic is a very tough career, honestly, because in order to do that job well, you have to be unbiased. And
Most
that's
of them are.
tough.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
Especially in
very many
today's
people
world.
out there who are.
Everything's so politicized today. It's hard to distance yourself from opinions.
Yeah, and then even if you can, like, even if you have the ability to do so, you might not want to for fear of, repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you support, let's say, Dave Chappelle in his offensive comedy, then now you're going to be a target potentially.
Yeah.
So
Is that foreshadowing for my future?
yeah, you're going to be a target, man.
Yeah.
They're going to come after you.
Oh, man. No, I like Dave Chappelle, though. I think he makes good jokes. I like Sticks and Stones. I would watch it again.
And
Probably will.
I can't say much about Dave Chappelle. I just saw that one. That was the first time I'd even heard of the guy. So I have nothing against him, nothing for him.
You know what happened with Dave Chappelle?
With what?
So he did the Dave Chappelle show. A lot of our audience will know this. I didn't know this until college when I watched it. The Dave Chappelle show is a string of things, much like Key and Peele.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, before
like
Key and Peele.
comedy skits or whatever.
Comedy skits,
I think
exactly.
That's what they did.
Yeah, comedy skits, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But better. His were amazing. Very offensive, but very funny. And then the producers said, hey, your jokes are getting too edgy. We can't air this anymore. Here's a script. There's a contract
So
for
they
$80 million.
wrote
We're
his
going to
stuff.
write jokes for you. You just say them.
Oh.
And then he said, nah, I'm not doing that, man.
Mm-hmm.
He quit right then in front of an $80 million contract. Moved to Africa without telling anyone and lived there for 10 years.
What?
Yeah, and then came back out of the blue.
No,
Yeah,
that's
like
crazy.
a couple years ago. Yeah.
What? Okay, did he have, like, roots there? Like, did he know
Nope.
people?
Nope.
He's just like,
Just went
screw
to
this,
Africa.
I'm going to Africa.
Yeah, I'm going to Africa.
Man, that's a life.
Well, when you're a rich comedian.
I guess, yeah.
And now he's super rich. I hear he goes and parties, and then when he's done, he has his private jet with IV bags for everybody,
Oh my
so they don't get
gosh.
hungover.
What?
But on from Rotten Tomatoes
Yes.
to the next topic, which is red number 40.
Mm-hmm.
Red number 40.
And all. Or ale. At all.
What are you talking about?
And more, because it wasn't just Red 40.
Artificial coloring.
Yeah.
There is a lot of research, the most comprehensive of which research paper I will link in the description of this video, and that's what most of the stuff I'm going to talk about is from. Red 40 specifically has been linked to, from several studies, to hyperactivity in children and adults alike. Specifically, also in those with ADHD, is where a lot of the money is driven towards the research.
Mm-hmm.
But what they found is that if you consume Red 40, which isn't everything, I mean, We went to the store, and I was trying to buy some pickles, and you wouldn't think they put food coloring, much less red food coloring, in pickles.
Yeah,
But,
pickles are green.
Yeah.
That's blue and yellow.
I don't know why you need
Why
coloring.
is there red 40 in them?
Like, popped it in the pickle jar. That's why you got to read the ingredients, because if it's in pickles, it's in anything remotely red, I guess you could assume.
Yeah.
Unless it says no artificial coloring, which I found some
they-
pickles that did say that.
But they sneak it in because they call it different names.
Oh, yes.
So-
It's like a luris. They're all in the research paper that will be linked, but you could also look them up. Wikipedia is great for that.
Always reliable.
Yeah, always is. Well, they're locked now, so not everybody can edit it. But it's like
really?
a luris, right? Yeah, you have to
When
have...
did that happen?
Last
Probably a
couple of
long
years.
time ago.
Probably a long time ago,
I
yeah.
never keep up with these things.
Yeah. But Red 40, ADHD, they found that a number of people diagnosed with ADHD to the point where they needed medication and were on medication. Once they eliminated Red 40 from their diet in this experimental controlled area, they actually were able to go off of their ADHD medication and have the same results.
What?
Yes, and this is because if you look at brain imaging, which is in this research article, you can look at the EEGs and whatnot, you can see that with and without Red 40. Without Red 40, just a normal brain activity baseline, and then if you add in Red 40, it went up from anywhere between 10 to 30% depending on the patient or the subject in the experiment upon ingesting Red 40.
So, food coloring
Yep.
is causing that much of an increase in brain activity.
And furthermore, that might be, that number, like, oh, brain activity, that's more, right? That's better. Without, numbers are kind of be tricky, but they also found that on average, after consuming Red 40, the IQ quotient went down by an average of 3 IQ points after consuming the Red 40.
Right, because too much brain activity, like Zach said, it sounds like, oh, that would make me, more intelligent.
Yeah, like limits.
But, right,
like that movie.
but but it actually adds limits and
Because it
can
distracts
cause
you.
seizures if it gets
Cause
too
seizures.
bad.
And that's ADHD, is you have too much brain activity in your brain and you get distracted by everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a
So you
severe
can't
case.
focus. So essentially, it hinders you having too much brain activity.
Mm-hmm. So Red 40, there's a lot of other ones. Yellow 5, Blue Lake 20. I'm also in medical school, and they talked about Red 40 in the nutrition slide, saying this is something to avoid even in United States medical school. Red 40 and all these other artificial colors are banned or they have been banned at certain times in the United Kingdom in recent past, and now they've sort of moved away from the ban towards a more like a free marketplace. So now they have it regulated that if you put any of the artificial coloring in your products, specifically Red 40, that's where most of the research is. The Southampton 6 is the 6 food coloring dyes that are in the research article. That's what the article is called, the Southampton 6, because the study was done at Southampton University.
Mm-hmm.
Looks at them that have the negative effects. But you have to say on the labels in the UK, this product contains the artificial food coloring Red 40. It has been shown to cause significant increase in hyperactivity. And then that has to be clearly labeled on the product down there. And most of their products don't have it in it because the consumer doesn't want to buy that. Right. And, the free market would move you away from that.
And that might not be the only risk either. ADHD, you were telling me before that there were some other risks, right?
Yeah, there's also the risk of, this isn't included in the research article that's linked, but I will try to find different publications and link that in there as well in the description. And if I don't, then don't pay attention to what I'm saying. Yeah. But it's also been shown that artificial food coloring dyes in rats have been linked to cancer, as well as birth defects in successive generations.
Yeah. So that's pretty crazy. And it's in everything. It's in food, but it's also in shampoo or other face products, makeup products. It can be in a lot of things, so.
Just checking the time.
Yeah, I was like, what are you doing?
Well, because the camera cuts off at 30 minutes, so I want to make it fluid. We're at 25 minutes right now, roughly.
Right.
So, really crazy thing, though, about this is that your epigenome, so what that is epigenetics, so any change in gene expression that's not directly related to a change in your primary DNA sequence. So that is generally impacted by your environment, how you're living, what genes are going to be repressed, coiled in tightly so they can't be acted on or spread out. And that has been shown that is heritable. You can pass it on to your children. So if you're eating junk food all the time and you have kids, that action actually has, it can affect your children and their children. If you're smoking cigarettes, that changes your genes, and it could affect your children and their children. So it's something to think about. But moving on, the last thing we have to talk about today.
Do we have time?
Yeah, we got time. What are you talking about? Is battery settings. So this was a requested topic, as was Red 40, and the optimal battery setting in terms of like when you're gonna stop using it, stop discharging it, and when you're going to charge it, and when you're gonna stop charging it, is roughly from 30-40% is when you'd stop discharging, and then you'd stop charging at around 70-80%. You can push the boundaries there in the real world. I know sometimes you need more percentage, more battery run time than 50 or 60% would give you, or 40% would give you. So the easiest range is 20-80, but that is going to have slightly more battery degradation. And that's because you have charge cycles, and the closer you charge to maximum and the lower you charge from, the more charge cycles you're going to use. And a normal battery is only rated for between 500 and 1,000 charge cycles before you have significant degradation, and the manufacturer is going to suggest upgrading or buying their next model, essentially. And the reason for this is because once you pass 80-ish%, depending on the battery, each battery cell is going to go from 3.8 volts in terms of the voltage that they're holding. If you think of like a 12-volt battery as a reference, go from 3.8 volts all the way up to 4.2 or 4.3 volts. And the reason that's important is when you get across that 3.8, 3.9 volt threshold, you're going to have more, to keep it in simple terms here, you're going to have more junk being deposited in the cycle of the battery that's just going to impact the efficiency of it, where it's not going to be a perfect system, and it's not going to be able to transmit as much charge because you have a path of electrons, and essentially that path of electrons is going to have a traffic jam and stop it from traveling through the battery.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I think that pretty much wraps up our Midnight Monologue
Yes.
for today. And tune in next week if you're interested in learning a little bit about Alzheimer's, specifically if Alzheimer's might be diabetes of the brain. So it's a pretty interesting topic, and something that I think our audience will be interested in. So
yeah, should be great. Also, leave any comments that you'd like to state in the comment section below. And if there's anything you'd like us to talk about, find me in town, tell me about it, or just comment in the bottom, and we'll be sure to work it into our successive episodes. Thank you very much.
Thank
Episode
you.
2, The Midnight Monologue.
Bye.
Bye.